See the last question. India's commitment to the disaster risk reduction is evident from the fact that it became one of the first countries to align its NDMP with Sendai framework. So basically, they're asking you what are the salient features of the NDMP with regard to the Sendai framework. So you have to mention the salient features of NDMP and then try to connect them with the Sendai framework, because India signed Sendai framework, which is applicable up to 2030. So what are the features of NDMP which are in line with the Sendai framework that you have to mention? And how can this plan help in effective disaster management? So basically, by listing out the salient features of NDMP with regard to the Sendai framework, next side heading will be how this particular adoption of NDMP in line with the Sendai framework will help in effective disaster management. So of course, the second part is again the standard part, which we know and have written now n number of times. Even in your dreams, you should be able to write this particular approach, especially the PMRR approach. So in the second part of the question, you will again come back to this PMRR approach, that is prevention, mitigation, response and recovery, how that has helped in successful handling of many disasters post adoption of NDMP in line with Sendai framework. So the first part of the question you can introduce by saying how we are prone to disasters and how we have come up with many policies like 2005 NDMA, etc. And then straight away come to the part that after signing of Sendai framework, we have looked for more proactive approach and more holistic approach, and hence try to integrate our NDMP in line with the signed Sendai framework. Then come to the salient features. What are the salient features? Basically, now it has become a very proactive approach. Okay. And then it is the NDMP is now focusing on more on prevention and mitigation, and it is also focusing on empowering the local administration, and then it's now targeting the bottom top approach. It is targeting the bottom top approach, and then more synergy between various coordination agencies. There is now more synergy between various coordination agencies. There is clear distinction between non-structural and structural parts. Non-structural and structural aspects of the disaster, they are segregated and then planned. Okay. And then the plan is now there is a clear-cut plan for each and every disaster, and it is documented and available with the local civil administration. Okay. And then the agencies are having certain protocol. Now there is a protocol for each and every disaster, which they have documented. And now there is a checklist for particular disaster. For example, if the cyclone or the flood is striking a particular region, so the district collector has to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So no matter who is the district collector, they are supposed to follow this protocol or checklist. So this is the new implementation of the disaster NDMP. So these are the important points, okay, which are now part of the NDMP. And one more thing is the improvement of the capability to fight the disaster. Capability has increased to fight the disaster. Now the forces are more trained. Okay. All these are the important aspects of the NDMP with regard to the integration of Sendai framework. Now, how this will help in effective disaster management is the question. Now, what is the, again, try to give the advantages of these points with regard to integration of NDMP with Sendai framework. Now we are able to fight the disasters more proactively with a positive mindset of PMRR approach. We are trying to make zonation of vulnerable areas, try to plan development in those areas. And again, you can use the 22nd question in 23rd. Now we are able to use the crisis mapping in the disaster management, okay, that you can write. And then we are now trying to provide a lot of technological inputs to the disaster prone areas and thereby trying to help the fighting of disasters. And the phases of various disasters can now be tackled individually than holistically. We can have more targeted approach. Okay, and then the recovery from the disasters is now significantly low. Recovery time. Previously, if the disaster struck any area, the recovery time was in months or sometimes years. But today, within days, we are able to recover from the disaster and try to address the disaster immediately. Okay, and also we are able to document the responses for the disasters, which are helping us in fighting the future disasters. So simply you can write a way forward or conclusion saying that by above inputs, we are now in a much better position to fight disasters. But the way forward is the formation of separate ministry for handling the disasters. And because lot of time is wasted in coordinating between various agencies, the moment we are able to bring all these various forces onto one ministry, the coordination can be much better and the response towards the disaster will be much faster and much systematic in approach. Is it clear? Who has written this answer? Vasavi, you have written? Good points, Vasavi. Good. Here you can again write the inclusion of technology, common ministry. All these you can include. Okay, Vasavi? Good points. You have made a lot of good points. Just try to include few more points as we have discussed. Okay, is it clear? Any doubts with regard to today's discussion? Any doubts regarding today's discussion? Or any doubts regarding other discussions in general?
The preparedness step where we can include in PMRR, sir?
Preparedness for a disaster, for example, when you do a zonation mapping, for example, if the earthquake prone area is mapped beforehand, you can be prepared for knowing the disaster there, right? You can be prepared that this area is prone to disaster. For example, if you know that a particular area is prone for floods, what is the preparedness you will do? First thing is you'll stop construction there. And if there are already some constructions, if they are illegal, you'll remove. Or you will ensure that at least when there is a warning of flood, those areas which are prone to the flooding are first evacuated. That is the preparedness. Clear?
So it comes under mitigation, sir?
No. Prevention, yeah, preparedness is mitigation, right? Prevention is different. So PMRR is prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery. So preparedness is a kind of mitigation only. Prevention is completely different because you are trying to prevent the disaster, for which you are taking much more proactive steps right from planning the development of that area. So basically preparedness is you are anticipating a disaster and preparing yourself. Response is how you are trying to respond during the disaster. So disaster has struck, you have no time, so how you are responding. And then recovery or rehabilitation is the post-disaster thing, what you are doing. So these are the 4 stages. If possible, you have to prevent the disaster. For preventing the disaster, what you are doing, you have to ensure that the zonation mapping, when you're, for example, I'm taking earthquakes. If you know that place is earthquake prone, how are you able to construct tall towers or trying to unnecessarily threaten the lives? Okay, so these are the 4 stages.
Clear, sir. Thank you.